Welcome to Start With a Win, where we give you the tools and lessons you need to create business and personal success. Are you ready? Let's do this.
And coming to you from Brand Viva Media headquarters, it's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. Producer Mark, we got some good energy going here.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling good.
Oh, right on. It's Monday.
That's right. It's Monday in our world here today, even though you might be listening to this on
Wednesday.
On a Wednesday. That's
yes.
right. And I live every day like it's Friday, so it doesn't matter which day it is.
Awesome. I love it. Hey, what do you get when you have two atoms together?
You get a great podcast.
Yeah, you get a molecule.
Oh, good one.
Oh, bam. I don't know.
That's a good
I'm not
dad
a chemist,
joke.
but this is going to be an awesome Adam interview here.
That's right. Speaking of Adam, we have Adam Hill on the podcast today. Adam is the CEO of a fourth-generation family business and has led his 100-year-old company through economic change, cultural change, and leadership change on the path to long-term sustainability. Adam has also been passionate about helping people overcome anxiety and fear. After overcoming more than a decade of alcoholism and unhealthy life habits, he reframed his inner fear and anxiety disorder and transformed it into a superpower, becoming an elite long-distance triathlete and qualifying for the Ironman World Championship. Today, he is a highly sought-after international speaker and the Amazon best-selling author of Shifting Gears, From Anxiety and Addiction to Triathlon World Championship. Adam, welcome to Start With a Win.
Welcome, Adam.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Mark. It's super easy to have two Adams on this show. So thanks for being an Adam.
I love it. The only other name we need to remember is Mark today.
That's right. That's right. Mark, you can remember that one. It's pretty easy because,
Awesome. Hey, this is, I love this. The story, obviously you hit some low points in your life, things of that nature. But ultimately, we're talking about leading yourself, leading others, leading a lifestyle, and picking a path that is productive in doing so. Take us through a little bit your CEO life and your life yourself. How did you get from where you were before to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a long gap, and I wasn't when I was in my when I was living in my anxiety and drinking, which is how I coped with my anxiety. I coped with alcohol, and that led to problems. I wasn't a leader at that time. You can't be a leader and serve that kind of God, right? So it took a lot of healing, a lot of recovery to get to a point where I could start to empower myself and become a leader within the organization that I'm in. It was a lot. It was big trouble.
Well, let me unpack that for a second. So you were using alcohol to fight anxiety. I think we have to have a greater awareness of this as business leaders. It used to be a stigma where you're like, oh my gosh, that person, suffers from alcoholism. Or instead of saying suffering from alcoholism, they were labeled an alcoholic or something like that. But the reality is, you have an illness there, a disease that people are battling, and we need to recognize it and be able to peel back that wrapper and help people. So let's just kind of attack anxiety from this perspective. And it's a problem for many people, but I like your view of it. You consider it a superpower. And I think if you consider it a superpower, you charge towards it instead of try to hide from it or cover it up with, or, you develop an addiction that you assign to it or something like that. How do you explain anxiety being a superpower? Help us with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It took me a while to come to that realization, because fear for me and fear and anxiety, they're cousins. They're not the same thing.
Right.
Right. Anxiety is more of the unknown, but fear is more pointed towards something that is specific. But, for me, when I was growing up, anxiety or my fears were just so much bigger than me. They were just so big, and I was looking at them and I couldn't get a good picture of what it was, but it was always there, and it was causing me pain, and I just wanted to get rid of it. And so that's why I led into drinking, because drinking gave me this outlet to just say, to to eliminate it right away. As soon as I took that drink, it was just like, no, I got you. Alcohol, says, I got you. But when I started to heal, when I got sober, I realized that that was the healing part. There's two types of psychology, right? There's the negative psychology and the positive psychology. And I hate those terms because it makes it sound bad, but I would call it just healing and empowerment. And that was the healing stage. That's where I rose from this big monster of fear facing me to. I rose to the level of my fear. That's where I faced it. That's where I healed. That's where I learned that I will never get over this thing called anxiety. I will never, I'll never be able to suppress it or push it out. It's going to be with me. And so now what can I do to turn it into a friend, to turn it into something that helps me? And, fear is there to help us. Fear actually tells us good things. It's not bad or good. It just tells us something. And it's how we listen to it that how we appreciate it. So when we can rise above our fears, because that's the next step after we rise to face it, we rise above it. And when we rise above it, we have a new perspective on fear where we can look at the whole picture and say, how can I benefit from this? What is it telling me? And is it telling me that is it challenging me? Or is it telling me you should probably avoid this? Because many times fear is telling us the right thing. Like, yeah, you should probably be careful or tread lightly. But a lot of times it's challenging us. It's saying, hey, you see that thing? See how it's making you feel? Maybe you should lean into that. And that's how, you can kind of change your perspective. And that's how it becomes a superpower, is it's challenging you to push yourself a little bit past your comfort zone.
I like that. And I mean, I tell a story in my book, Start With a Win, called Party with the Beast. And the beast is that fear, doubt, and overwhelm that we all have inside of us. It comes back to, you look at the Pixar movie of Monsters, Inc. It's the monster under the bed or the monster in the closet, and you can be afraid of it or you can party with it. And that's where you come with Party with the Beast. So it's fascinating when you take and you overlay this with leadership, though. And this is something I want to dive into because this podcast is about, being better for ourselves and being better for our businesses. And that's what we're talking about here, is taking an internal challenge and overlaying that with a business opportunity here of leaders dealing with fear and anxiety. How did your anxiety and fear impact your leadership, and how did you overcome these things in leadership?
It's something that affected me tremendously when I first started out as the leader of this company, or the CEO of this company, because I'm a young guy, and we always tend to look at the limitations or the perceived limitations that we had. So I was 38 when I took over the company, and it's an old school company. It's a company that's got a lot of, it's a chemical company, so it has a lot of that old school mentality. And so having to overcome a lot of that was difficult. Having to find my voice, find that courage, really discover my vision. It took a lot of patience. It took a lot of, and it took many years. And the one thing that I didn't want to do at that beginning stage was try to force my way into, any level of respect or anything like that. I just wanted to be patient and listen and open my ears and figure out what was happening. So that was kind of the approach I took. But it certainly wasn't without fear. There's a lot of that running through my head. As I said earlier, it's something that stays with me, but I had to learn to dance with it, as my business coach would say. And it was a long process, but it eventually kind of caught my own, and I became part of that team and that leadership.
How did the fear and anxiety impact your business itself? I mean, it's, for those people experiencing it, you don't understand that it is actually something you wear on your sleeve that a lot of people can see and sense. If they don't see and sense it, they're probably in the middle of it themselves. But ultimately, it does have an adverse impact on how you treat your employees, how your leadership carries itself. Really true, your transparency in your organization. What happened to your business when you started to have a very good understanding of that and develop ways to harness that as that superpower? Did you see improvements, or did you see people change, or what happened?
Yeah, I think I absolutely did, because it turned into something where, uncertainty was the guide on the negative part of that anxiety. So getting more certainty and building more certainty in the business in terms of, what are our expectations? What really is our vision? how do we know that we're going in the right direction? Because when we have those measurables, when we have that level of clarity in front of us, then, the anxiety is it may still be there, but at least you have the certainty of knowing, look, we're meeting this or we're not meeting this. This is what we have to do. So difficult conversations are simpler to have. They're easier to have in that instance. And that's really what I was afraid most of starting out, was having those difficult conversations with people, as many of us are, maybe afraid of confrontation. But finding that voice, finding that clarity made that easier.
I want to double click on this for a second because I have a question for our listeners. The question I have for you is, do you have that trouble with those difficult conversations? Because that could be a window into your heart and soul when it comes to your anxiety and fear, meaning essentially you're fighting against that clarity, that certainty that Adam's talking about here, that confidence in your leadership. Because I can tell you one thing, those difficult conversations are not going to be easy, but when you put them in the rearview mirror, meaning you've had them, they become experience, and that experience lowers that anxiety and that fear for the next time. Business leaders train for this. And I want to ask you, Adam, how can we help our business leaders train for dealing with the fear and anxiety?
The training is difficult because really it's through experience. You have to push yourself beyond your comfort zone, meaning you have to experience the fear. You have to analyze the fear without judgment and then just say, what is this fear trying to tell me? And then push beyond it. And the important part is, don't throw yourself way, way out beyond your comfort zone. Just 5%. Just 5% beyond your comfort zone is enough to make it interesting, to help you grow, but not so much that you're going to overwhelm yourself.
You've got people who fight that tension. Tension is good. Rubber band is designed to be under tension. A spring is designed to be under tension. We're designed to grow through tension, which means, like what you just said, getting out of that comfort zone, the cliche that we all hear. And a lot of people say it, they don't do it, but ultimately we have to continue to push ourselves. And I love your 5% better piece. It's fascinating. People reflect on yourself, think about it, but don't get defensive. The difference here is accepting and being excited about it versus being defensive about it. Because when we're defensive about it, we fight it. When we're excited about it, we grow with it. As soon as you're defensive, you're going to start losing. As soon as you're excited, you're going to start winning. You just have to understand, either way, it's going to take that growth in the process. And frankly, defensive hurts more than excited. I'll just say that. Make sure you check out Adam at Adam Hill Try. That's Adam Hill, HILLTRI.com, to find out more about his book, Shifting Gears. And I have a question for you that I ask all of our amazing guests on the show, and that's, how do you start your day with a win?
I start my day every single morning with a 2-hour ritual that begins with Wim Hof breathing and reading, empowerment, making sure and a cold shower. Those are the things that I do in the morning, first thing. Yep.
Awesome. Adam Hill. By the way, I think your middle name is C something, right? Adam C. Hill?
Yeah, Clifford. Yep. Adam,
all right,
Adam Chill.
I was just going to say that. Adam's on LinkedIn at Adam Chill, which I think is really cool. So anyhow, make sure you check out Adam. Check out his book. Adam is also a keynote speaker and does a lot for the community and businesses out there. Adam, thank you for being on Start With a Win.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Hey, and thank you for listening to Start With a Win. Remember to head over to adamcontos.com to find out more great information, what's going on, social content, and great downloads to help you become a better leader. And until next time, remember, start with a win.
All right, we're on YouTube, man.
We are on YouTube.
Hello, YouTube.
That's right. You've made it this far. We get all the extra content. Adam, I was curious. So you took over a family business then? How was that? I mean, I could see how that could really be intimidating too, right? It's like, I don't want to screw this thing up. It's like, it's lasted this long and now I'm taking it over. So I could imagine all that pressure. How was that as far as like raising through the ranks? Did you suffer from a lot of like imposter syndrome and different things like that? Like as you got to that time of like, hey, we're going to pass the keys to you, can you explain some of that or share some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, then imposter syndrome existed throughout that whole thing, and even coming through the ranks. That's why it's one of the reasons that I struggled so much with anxiety too, was just believing that I wasn't enough, and I wasn't capable of doing that. Even into the position where I did grow into that, management level and director, and then into the CEO, I still didn't think that I was enough. I was surrounded by people that were doing amazing things, and so it was hard for me to overcome that. But it was just a sense of understanding. And this is something my business coach told me, that if you're not experiencing that imposter syndrome, then you're probably a little bit of a narcissist or more, because you might be thinking
so
you're just
awesome.
elevated, right?
Yes,
right?
look at me. Woo!
Yeah.
That's
So
good to know. I
good
like
to have that. Yeah. So have a little grace, I guess, with the imposter syndrome, but don't let it, overtake you.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for being on Start With the Win. And hey, thank you for sticking around for the after show. Remember, if this was valuable content, please hit that thumbs up icon, subscribe to the podcast, and hit the bell icon so you get notified every single time a new episode drops. So until next time, we'll see you when we see you.